Hello, folks. We appreciate your patience. It does take me a minute or two to get everything situated with Zoom and YouTube. As a reminder, we are practicing the letter that has two different forms. This is the O vowel, as you very well remember. This is the O vowel, and it's what I call a toothpick with a dot sitting over it or above it. A dot over it is an O vowel. And you know this sound well. And lines 1, 2, and 3 sound as Shalom, Kadosh, Notain, Torah, Sion, Ratzon. Line 2, Olam, Le'olam, Hayom, Otanu, Hamotzi. People sometimes talk about the Hamotzi, which is the prayer that we say to God when we're about to eat some bread. Hamotzi, actually pronounced the last syllable. The last syllable gets the accent, Hamotzi, but American Jews tend to say Hamotzi. Line 3, Matzot, that's matzahs, eaten on Passover. Matzot, Matzah, matzah is one, matzot is plural. Matzah, matzot, matzot, reviewing the tzadi. But the other form of this toothpick is a V. And you see here, this is a V. And that's why here in this box, you have the toothpick equated with the English V. If there's no dot over it or inside it, then it sounds a V. It's called a Vav. Vav, this is the Vav. And so the word that we're looking at right now with the double arrow is V, Si, Va, Nu. And you see the Vav with the dot in the center is the U vowel, with which we are familiar. V, Si, Va, Nu. This is, I think, the hardest part of Hebrew, that this character has two entirely different forms and usages, I should say. When it's by itself, it's pronounced as a V, a hard consonant. If it has the dot in the center or over it, it becomes a vowel. So we're practicing line number 4, and then we'll go on and do a little bit more practicing of some additional pages. Line 4. Va, va, vi, vi, ve, 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 vu. This is a v, this is u, so this is vu. This is a v, that's o, so this is vo. This is a trick. This goes back to what you know. This is o. It's not tricky, it's just a challenge. V. Let's try again. Line 4. Va, va, vi, vi, ve, 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 vu, vu, vo, o, v. Line number 5. Pardon me one moment. Pardon me. Line 5. V, Shabbat, V, Ratzah, V, Ad, Va'ed. Line 6. Va'ad, Olam, La'olam, Va'ed, Ve'otanu, Ve'otanu. Line 7. M'savcha. This is the vav. 2 dots below, it's the sound. M'savcha. Hayom. Mitzvah. Mitzvah. Mitzvot. This is the v, this is the o. Mitzvot. You have to practice that. This word appears in many situations, many contexts, many places. It's what needs to become a sight word, a word familiar to you just by looking at it. without even reading. Mitzvot. Mem, Sadi with the Shva, a double Vav, and the final letter is a Tav. The last letter is a Tav. Mitzvot. This is a single form. This is mitzvah, a command. This is mitzvot. Both of these appear all over the place. Line number 8. Siva. Sivanu. Sivanu is a very common word. Sivanu. Sivanu. A very common word, appears in many situations. Vtsivanu. Again, Vtsivanu. Practicing Vtsivanu. Vtsivanu. Line 9. Siva, mitzvah, siva, mitzvah, mitzvah. Because of the two dots here, this syllable is somewhat closed. Mitzvah, mitzvah. Siva, mitzvah, mitzvah. Line 10. Mitzvah, mitzvah, mitzvot, mitzvot, b'mitzvot, b'mitzvot. And in just a moment, we'll move on. Pardon me for a second, please. Just a quick reminder about the O function of that vowel. You see this O with the vav and the dot over it. So line 2, bosh, moat, oat, don, comb. Line 3, avo, shemo, oto, hodo, home. Line 4, moshi, ot, shoni, mosha, hamon. Line 6, moshav, makom, otam, adon. I'm sure you have the O vowel down by now. Hold on 1 second, please. And we did this last time, but it's important to review because this is one of the biggest issues in Hebrew. When preceded by a shva, this is pronounced as a vo. You think it looks like O, but if the shva is in front of it, then O becomes vo. Mitzvot. You can't say mitz. You can't say that. If the tzadi had no two dots, I'm covering it up for a reason, then you could say mitzot. But since the tzadi has the two dots as a vowel unto itself, the shva, mitz, you need a sound to go with this vowel. So the sound is the v, mitzvot. That's an irregular rule when you've got the shva and the vav. So It's actually mitzvot. It's really these two letters. The first one is sounded as a V, the second is the O, but they are combined in this form when you've got these two dots in front of it. So if you have two dots in front of a single O vowel, it's going to be this kind of a combination. And it's just a matter of remembering and practicing. No matter how many times I explain it, you just have to study it and memorize it. Mitzvo, mitzvo. Maybe this side of the page. Mitzvot equals mitzvot. B'mitzvot equals b'mitzvot. B'mitzvot equals b'mitzvot. Line 4. Torah u'mitzvot. There's the shva, the two dots. Therefore, this becomes a hard vav in front of the O, mitzvot, and it becomes one over here. Torah u'mitzvot. Mitzvot Hashem equals mitzvot Hashem. And this is one of the most famous words we have, b'mitzvotav, which means literally with God's commandments or in God's commandments or in the doing of God's commandments. So line number 6, Shalom bimro mav. Shalom bimro mav. Bimro mav, the yud here is silent. Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. B'mitzvotav. It's a side word. The shva underneath the tzadi makes this become a special character with the vav built into the O sound, the mitzvotav. Over here, line 6, bimromav, bimromav. B'mitzvotav, b'mitzvotav. The yud is silent in these forms right here. The yud is silent, so bimromav could be written this way: bimromav, b'mitzvotav, b'mitzvotav. Line 8, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. That's familiar to all of us. And now, allow me a moment. I'm going to belabor the point. This is the vav when it is sounded. This is the vav when it is sounded. Line 1. Va, va, v. Va, vi, va. Line 1. Fa, va, v. Va, vi, va. Line 2. V, a. V, ha. V, sha. V, he. Va. Line 2. Line 3, pardon me. Tav, vav. Va, shiva. Vash. Line 4. Va, ve'aha. Ve'ata. Shiva. Line 5. Va'at. Va'ata. Vahi. Vashti. That's review. And now, one more page, then we'll move on to the next letter. From a different book. Line number 1. Vered, that's a fairly common name in Israel. It is the name of a rose, the flower, a rose. And so people are sometimes naming their children Vered, rose. Vilon, vilon, skip this. Tikva, tikva means hope. The Israeli national anthem, which has become the international Jewish national anthem, I should say international Jewish anthem, is Hatikva, the hope. Vatik, vatik, mi, I have to skip that one, I haven't touched that letter yet. Line number 2, Avir, avir, skip this. Achshav, achshav, mitzvah, mitzvah, mitzvot, mitzvot, v'mitzvotav, v'mitzvotav. And line 3, you know this. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher. Line 4. Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. This is a very special word. It is a printer's convention for Adonai, God's name, Adonai. It's a double yud, and someday we'll have time to talk about why. But for now, you just have to learn how to memorize that word. A yud with a yud next to it is pronounced Adonai. And now, I think we're going to move forward and get back on track. We're going to step away from the irregulars. Oh, for some reason, this is not loading. So one more second, please. Back to the regular part of Hebrew. This is the easy part. So this is the gimel. This is the gimel. This is a hard G. There is no soft G. There is no j in Hebrew. There's only a hard G, a gimel, g. And if you have played dreidel on Hanukkah, you may be familiar with the gimel from it's being found on one of the four sides of the dreidel. This is a gimel. So line 1. Ga, ga, ge, gay, gay, gi, gi, gu, gu, go, go. Pretty simple, obviously. Now we're back to the simple stuff. Ga, ga, ge, gay, gay, gi, gi, gu, gu, go, go. This is the gimel. Line number 2. Go, go. This is pronounced goy, because you got the yud there, and yud is kind of like a Y sound. This is pronounced goy. Goy literally means nation. And perhaps you've heard the word goy, and in some context, it might bring to mind the idea of a non-Jewish person. That's because the word goy means a nation. Over the course of many centuries, the usage of just a nation led to the idea of nations of the world separate from the nation of Israel. And therefore, the term goy sometimes refers to a non-Jew. Next word, gadol, gil, gula. Line 2 again. Go, go, goy, gadol, gil, gula. Line 3. Gal, gali, gali, Galil. Galil is the Hebrew word. The English word Galilee comes out of it. I don't know why somebody added the E sound to Galilee. It's Galil or Galil, but anyway, I didn't invent it. Galil is the Hebrew, Galilee is the English. Goel, Geula. Line 3. Gal, Gali, Gali, Galil, Goel, Geula. Line 4. Gil, Gila, Ger, Gag, Gan, Gam, Gavia. Gavia, an example of the Shva, and also the Vav is having a V sound. It's not the U or the O, it's a V sound. Gavia. Line 4. Gil, Gila, Ger, Gag, Gan, Gam, Gavia. Let's do something a little bit different, a little bit more complicated. We're going to read backwards. By now, you've gotten used to reading Hebrew in the correct manner. We're reading backwards. Line 4. Gavia, Gam, Gan, Gag, Ger, Gila, Gio. Line 2. Gula, Gil, Gadol, Goy, Go, Go. Line 1. Go, Go, Goo, Goo, Gi, Gi, Gay, Gay, Ge, Ga, Ga. Line 5. Nagila. You might have heard the song Hava Nagila. Nagila means let's be happy. Nagila in Hebrew means let's be happy. Nagila, Goy, Gadol, Gidula, Gadol, Gidula, Yigdal, 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 Yit Gadal, Yit Gadal. A little bit of Hebrew grammar now. If you look at the word Gadol and the word Gidula, you should see the Gimel and the Dalet and the Lamed in a row. The first letter is the Gimel, the second is the Dalet, the third letter is the Lamed. Ignore the O vowel. Here you have the Gimel, the Dalet, and the Lamed. Gidula, 3 letters in a row. First letter, second letter, third letter, first letter, second letter, third letter. Look at this, Yigdal. If you ignore the Yud, you have the Gimel, the Dalet, and the Lamed in a row. This is an excellent example of teaching how Hebrew works from a grammatical point of view. Every verb is based upon 3 letters in a row. Every Hebrew verb is based upon 3 letters in a row in a sequence. In this case, you have Gimel and Dalet and Lamed. There are many words deriving from Gimel, Dalet, and Lamed. Gadol means big or great as an adjective. Big or size, great in size. You could also say great in terms of grandeur or importance. Gidula means greatness. Yigdal means he will grow big or he will be great. So the Gimel, the Dalet, and the Lamed in a row, Gimel, Dalet, Lamed in a row, Gimel, Dalet, Lamed in a row, all have the same idea, but they might be modified in just a little bit because of how other vowels are introduced, or perhaps prefixes or suffixes are attached to that root. This last word is a very famous word. It's actually Aramaic, but it's similar enough to be talking about it here in this context. It's Yit Gadal. Yit Gadal, Gimel, Dalet, Lamed in the same sequence. Literally means he will become greatened. He will become magnified, if you want to use a fancy way of speaking. If you were to switch the sequence of the letters and make it Daled, Lamed, Gimel, you wouldn't have anything. If you switched it Daled, Gimel, Lamed, you'd have the word Degel, which is a noun, means a flag, but there's no verb. So placing the Hebrew letters in the proper sequence, sequence 1, 2, 3, is critical to speaking and reading and writing and understanding Hebrew and making yourself understood. A bit of a digression. Line 6. Goel, Golel, Geula. Goel, Golel, Geula. Line 7. Latate, Gedula, Leyotzer, Bereshit. Latate, Gedula, Leyotzer, Bereshit. Line 8. Vehu, Eli, Goali, Va'im, Gaviyati. Let's make that bigger. One more time. Vahu, Eli, Goali, Va'im, Gaviyati. Line 9. This is the first line from a prayer known as the Kaddish. The Kaddish is very well known. There are actually 5 different versions of the Kaddish. Most people are familiar with at least the Kaddish known as the Mourner's Kaddish, said when people are grieving and mourning. But there are other Kaddishes throughout the Jewish prayer system. Line 9. Yit Gadal V'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Once more, line 9. Yit Gadal V'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah.